From Illinois Public Media News, this is 217 Today. I'm Kimberly Schofield. It's Monday, May 13th. Coming up, we'll learn more about how medical debt has become another cost of having children in America. That story in just a few minutes, but first, these headlines. State Senator Chapin Rose says the University of Illinois is not being fair to its flagship campus when it distributes state funds. IPM's Jim Meadows reports.
Rose, who is a U of I Urbana alum, says his calculations show the Chicago campus receives about $10,000 per undergraduate student, while Urbana gets about $7,400. Tuition is also higher at Urbana. Rose says seniors who just graduated from the Urbana campus are, in effect, subsidizing the Chicago campus.
And ask all those graduates what they think about having to pay an extra $5,000 to go to the U of I to subsidize the Chicago campus. Ask them what they think. Then ask their parents. I dare you.
A statement from the U of I administration says the school's 3 campuses have different programs that require different spending levels. I'm Jim Meadows, Illinois Public Media.
Proponents of a measure to let terminal patients end their own lives are increasing pressure on state lawmakers as 2 weeks remain in the spring legislative session. Alex Degman reports.
Patients of sound mind who have 6 months to live or less could request a prescription for life-ending medication. The Compassion and Choices Action Network, a national advocacy group, released an interview with Susie Flack of Naperville. Her son chose this route when living in California.
He feared, even more than death itself, he feared that his body would just deteriorate to the point where he had no quality of life.
But the bill faces stiff opposition from a variety of groups who say this amounts to assisted suicide. Access Living, a disability rights group, says the availability of this medication could pressure people into premature death. I'm Alex Degman.
A new study hopes to help Black women in labor across Illinois be more seen and heard by their doctors. Kristen Schorsch reports.
In Illinois, Black pregnant people are almost 3 times as likely to die from a pregnancy-related medical condition than white people. Dr. Ann Borders at Evanston Hospital hopes to change this.
In a busy labor and delivery unit, everyone's focused on safety. Everyone's trying to have mom and baby have a safe outcome and have the best experience. But things can get lost.
She's helping to lead a new $7 million study. At 22 hospitals across Illinois, doctors, nurses, and patients will regularly huddle and write what the patient wants on a whiteboard. That's instead of doctors deciding what happens outside the delivery room. A big goal is to reduce unnecessary C-sections. Kristen Schorsch, WBEZ News.
The Illinois Department of Corrections is getting pushback on their plans to demolish and rebuild 2 prisons, the Logan Prison for Women and Stateville for Men. The agency is calling for the Logan facility to move from central Illinois to near Joliet. The $900 million proposal is now before a legislative financial forecasting committee. Chair Dave Kaler says he's worried about programs like job training getting disrupted.
As I see this, I don't think anybody would argue that we need to upgrade these facilities and make them, worthy of being a 21st century facility. But the question really is how we do this and where.
The Department of Corrections will host meetings in the coming weeks to gather community input on the project. Still to come, we'll learn more about how medical debt has become another cost of having children in America. That story is coming up next on 217 Today.
If you love the city of Chicago, you'll want to tune in for Jeffrey Bear's newest special. It's called Chicago Mysteries. Bear wants to answer weird questions about Chicago's history and culture, like, did a UFO really fly over O'Hare Airport? Why don't Chicagoans put ketchup on their hot dogs? Learn the answers to these and other intriguing questions in this immersive tour of the Windy City. Chicago Mysteries is available to stream now with the free PBS app.
You're listening to 217 Today. I'm Kimberly Schofield. Anyone who has had a baby knows that it can be expensive. The diapers, the formula, the childcare. Medical debt has now become yet another cost of having children in America. Noam Levy has this story of one Illinois family and the medical bills that piled up after their daughter was born.
Heather Crivellari and her husband made a lot of preparations before having their first child. They saved carefully. They got good health insurance. They looked for a community where 2 public school teachers could afford a home. But when Crivellari and her newborn daughter Rita came home from the hospital, there were still mountains of bills to navigate.
It really felt like a full-time job some days, getting the baby down to sleep and then getting on the phone. I'd set up one payment plan and then a new bill would come that afternoon.
Altogether, Crivellari and her husband were left about $5,000 in debt. That forced them onto 9 payment plans to keep ahead of collectors.
And we had a healthy baby. I just kept thinking, what am I going to do if she does get sick?
Crivellari's pregnancy had been a little more complicated than most. She developed high blood pressure, and Rita was delivered by emergency C-section. But the Crivellari's medical bills were hardly unusual. New parents in the U.S. with private health coverage, on average, face more than $3,000 in medical bills that aren't covered by their health plan. And if there are complications, bills can run more than $10,000.
Even though they have insurance, they still have these very high bills.
That's Dr. Michelle Moniz, an obstetrician from the University of Michigan. She studies out-of-pocket costs faced by new parents. 100 million people in the U.S. have healthcare debt. About 1 in 8 say at least some of it came from pregnancy or childbirth. That's according to a nationwide KFF poll. These people also have bigger debt and say they are more likely to make difficult sacrifices, like cutting back on food or clothing. Dr. Eileen Atwood is an obstetrician in Rhode Island.
You feel bad because you know that they want the best for their pregnancy.
Atwood routinely sees young parents anxious about debt.
They are having to make real choices, and what those choices may entail can include the choice to not get certain services or medications or what may be needed for the care of themselves and their fetus.
For the Crivellari family in Illinois, the worries over finances got real when Heather was diagnosed with the preeclampsia. It's potentially life-threatening. She was moved from her local hospital to a larger medical center 30 miles away.
I do remember thinking when they insisted that I ride in an ambulance, I'm never going to financially recover from this. But it's like, oh my gosh, I want my baby to be okay. I want to be okay.
A state senator in Massachusetts says parents shouldn't have this kind of worry. And
when women don't get adequate care during a pregnancy and postpartum, that costs the system an incredible amount of money.
State Senator Cindy Friedman is sponsoring legislation that would exempt all medical bills related to pregnancy and childbirth from copays, deductibles, and other cost sharing. Crivellari says she wishes new parents could catch their breath before they have to start paying off their medical bills, kind of like student debt.
When I graduated with my college degree, it was like, oh, hey, new adult. It's going to take you 6 months to kind of figure out your life, so we'll give you this 6-month grace period before your student loans kick in.
Crivellari and her husband did manage to pay off the bills from the pregnancy, but they sank back into debt when their daughter Rita, who is 2 now, needed surgery for ear infections. It's all made Crivellari think twice about going to the doctor, even for Rita. And she and her husband are now firmly resolved not to have more children. I'm Noam Levy in Jacksonville, Illinois.
And finally, in your forecast, meteorologist Andrew Pritchard says today will be partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms and a high of 78 degrees. That's it for today. 217 Today is produced by Stephanie Mosqueda. Reporting today contributed by Jim Meadows, Alex Stegman, Kristen Schorsch, Mawa Iqbal, and Noam Levy. Music by the Kilbourne Alley Blues Band. Reginald Hardwick is our news director. I'm Kimberly Schofield. 217 Today is a production of Illinois Public Media. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.